Hey, so I'm about to do something that not many people do, I don't think. Like, I'm going to do a review of a concert. Are you interested at all? I don't care if you're interested at all. I'm just doing this thing because I have some time in between work. So, this past weekend, I went to the New York State of Mind tour here in Houston. It was WUTANG CLAN, Nas, and surprisingly, Busta Rhymes. When I bought the tickets, I had no idea that Busta Rhymes was even on the tour or consider it. So that was some icing on the cake, I guess. So, I was taking my friend out for her birthday and her other friend. Like we said, let's take Nicole because Nicole needs a tour. But really, a concert. I really needed a concert because to be honest, before pre-pandemic, this is my first concert, I believe. Besides like being in the park watching some people cover music, I haven't been to a concert since right before lockdown in 2020. I went to this hip hop tour that my friend had an extra ticket for. I don't even remember the name of it. It was with Big Daddy Kane, one of my favorites, Slick Rick, the Ruler, Ghostface, and Raekwon the Chef together, and Rakim the God MC. That concert, because it was free for me, I got my whole life on that concert because I was happy. I got there late, so I saw the end of Big Daddy Kane, and Big Daddy Kane still has moves. Scoob and Scrap Lover. I think Scrap Lover was with them, but he still puts on a show. Slick Rick put on a show because he had his little backup singers like doing this little synchronized dance, and Ghostface and Raekwon, they're like two of my favorite. Okay. So that was a great show, and Rakim is the God MC. I still stand behind Rakim. If there was a list, he's still at the top of my list as one of the best MCs. And that brings me to the Wu-Tang Clan, the tour. Wu-Tang Clan, in my opinion, are some of the most underrated MCs out there, but I feel like they don't get the credit because right at their peak, they were blacklisted by Hot 97. They said F Hot 97 at a concert, so that just kind of made them fizzle because nobody was playing Wu-Tang anymore on the radios, because you can't say F Hot 97 when they have all these affiliates that need to play your music. So that kind of like ruined Wu-Tang. Mind you, others went on to have great albums, like Supreme Clientele is still one of my favorite hip hop albums. I don't know about of all time, but it's still one of my favorite ones. It's definitely one of my favorite ones from Wu-Tang Clan. Of course, Purple Tape is my favorite. It's everybody's favorite. That was a stellar album. And that's what's funny. Like, they performed Incarcerated Scarfaces, and I felt like the energy in the room should have been up here when it was right here. Incarcerated Scarfaces is one of my favorite hip hop songs of all time. Like, just the beat, the way the lyricists come in. That's one of my favorites, but the energy level was down. And I often question, like, having grown up in Houston and knowing that people were really into rap hip hop back in the 80s. And then when I went to college in the 90s, it was like I went on the East Coast. So I felt like, oh my God, I found my tribe. I'm with all my hip hop heads here, at Howard University. So then, I come back and I was like, oh, it was all Southern rap, it was, I come back to visit and I'm like, everybody's not really into the same type of hip hop I'm into. So, but I didn't live here anyhow. I went to Atlanta after college where, it was still a hip hop scene, it was still like crunk rappers, Outkast were still at the height of Atlanta during that time. But hip hop still had a true scene in Atlanta at that time. This is like late 90s. But it was also the Jiggy era. So why am I going off on that tangent? Anyhow, back to the tour. So I didn't expect Wu-Tang to be putting on a Big Daddy Kane performance. No. I didn't expect them. I mean, I expected what they gave was just walking back and forth doing their lines, their lyrics from each song, but I did expect some energy, which I didn't really get. And if I was the director of that show or the producer of the show, I would have directed RZA not to play like the he came out originally like the host of a high school talent show at a black hood school. Yeah, this next guest coming on to the stage, blah, blah, blah. We got the Jizza. He the one that put me on the hip hop Mr. Jizza. And, Jizza comes out, when the MCs came, which is one of my favorite hip hop songs too. And, Jizza did his thing, very, monotone, low key, not very exciting, blah, blah, blah. And that's what, it wasn't exciting, I guess. And they kept emphasizing, you give us energy, we're going to give it back to you. No, 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 no. That's not how concerts work. You perform because we paid, and we cheer you on because you are exciting us. But that wasn't happening. But I mean, I guess like at this point, everybody in the Wu-Tang Clan is 50 plus years old, with the exception of young Dirty Bastard, who was representing his father. Old Dirty Bastard, who is deceased. Moment of silence. Old Dirty Bastard is deceased, so they let his son fill in. I think they were trying to help him out financially. And, he came with the energy. I felt like it was a different energy than ODB. Like, did you ever see your father perform? It was like more like hype, hype, hype versus, I'm hype, but I'm not that hype. But, he came out and did that. And surprisingly, the way the show was paced was like first 5 members of Wu-Tang, Jizza, then I think Inspector Deck came out, then Capadonna, the 2 least popular members of Wu-Tang. Then I think U-God came out. U-God, who I feel like really wanted to be a star, and his album never was released because that's when it, all went down. And I felt like U-God was really kind of bitter. If you watch Of Mice and Men, he just still seemed a little bitter to me, but that's just my intuition. And then, surprisingly, Method Man made an appearance, and I feel like that's when energy actually happened. But I think before then, I'm trying to remember the order, Busta Rhymes came out. And to me, it's like the show needed Busta Rhymes to bring the energy level up, because he did. He and Spliff Star, they did their little, do you really want to party with me? Like, they were in sync. And it was entertaining because, like, they would go down, 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 up, up, up. So I felt like the show needed them, and I'm glad they came, because at that point I was like, I don't know if I could stand here through the rest of these boring performances. And then Method Man emerges, because they said Method Man is not on the tour, which I didn't know. I just bought the tickets. I saw Wu-Tang. I was like, I'm going to go. I didn't know he wasn't on a tour. Like, I hadn't been reading trades or anything. I just saw a tour. I was talking to somebody, mentioned it, and I was like, I wonder if it's coming to Houston, so I'm gonna go. So Method Man came and brought the energy, and then he also threw that back. You give us what you give us, we gonna give you. And he did Bring the Pain. No, he did METHOD, man. M-A-T. He did that. And then he starts talking to the crowd, and I just got the sense, or maybe I'm just being, petty and messy, but I got the sense they still have tension with Method Man. Like, Method Man was the LL Cool J of the group. Like, if you've seen documentaries, they always want to shut Method Man up because you talk too much, man. Shut up, man. Like, they always wanted to shut him up. And because Method Man emerged and became somewhat of a superstar, if you will, like a mainstream star, more so a mainstream star, I feel like there's more resentment towards him. Maybe that's why he hadn't been on the first half of the tour. But Method Man announced he's going to be on the rest of the tour, everybody. So if you are one of those cities that Wu-Tang Clan and Nas, the New York State of Mind tour, be passing through, Method Man will be there. So the show just went on. Nas came back out. They kept going back and forth, back and forth. Then, towards the end, I can sense, the show's about to end. They did, we love you, Houston. And then lights went out, but then lights came back on. It's like, they do that whole, we're not going to give you an encore type of situation. So we're like, let's go, because I want to beat the crowd. I don't want to be mixed up in all these people trying to get out of here. So we started walking up the steps, and then they come back, and, RZA's like, all it starts with is like one mic. And I thought, Nas didn't do one mic. Then you hear that beat drop, boom. All I need is one mic. So we went back and cheered a little bit, but then it's like, let's go. So we left, but it was a good night. If you really want to hear some 90s real hip hop, as they say, check out that tour if they're coming to your city. I have another video with a few snippets and clips. Check that out. It's just go into one of the links. I don't know what to tell you. But like and subscribe.